What is your duty? That is not for me to say. That is for every man to find out for himself. Yesterday, I finished Magician's Master by Raymond E. Feist, the second half of the first book in the Rift War saga, and I was unfortunately let down by my own expectations. I had somewhat high expectations going into Magician Master because Magician Apprentice was filled with potential. There was so much potential for there to be a very interesting story here. Whether we learned more about the magic of this world, or Kelawon, or the war itself, there was unlimited potential in the second half of this book. And unfortunately, at least in my eyes, I feel like it was squandered. I really feel like it was squandered, and Raymond E. Feist, when he wrote Magician, was just trying to get as many ideas on the page as possible. And it just didn't work for me. Like this whole book as a whole is good, but man, there's a ton of missed potential. Because Magician Apprentice starts off as this kind of very fun, almost adventure story with, boys becoming men and all those kinds of things. I'm there for that, right? If this was an adventure story of two boys who come into their own power, whether that's being a magician or a warrior, that'd be cool. I'm down for that. I'd read that book. Or what it develops into, this war story of two worlds colliding because one world does not have the resources that the other one does. I'm there for that. That is interesting. There's a ton of cool commentary you can do with that. There are a lot of cool ideas you can do with that. You can explore the, very different cultures between Mikimia and Kelawon. I'm there for that. That is so cool. Doesn't really get explored, at least not in the way I wanted to. Oh, we're in Kelawon and Pug is becoming a magician master. I want to see him become a magician master through training. Doesn't happen. Or, like the politics in this book. There are two very different worlds with two very different sets of political factions. Explore either of them, and that would be cool. Explore both of them, and that would be cool. But it's none of it. It's all of these things combined, and it just feels like Raymond E. Feist was basically like, well, this might be my one shot at writing like a fantasy book. So I'm going to put down all my ideas, and hopefully this hodgepodge of a book is going to appeal to someone. And I don't mind people being a fan of this. Like, if this is your favorite book, or this is what you got into fantasy, I respect it. But as someone who's read a good amount of fantasy now, and read a good amount of first books in fantasy, this to me was just a disappointment. And it was a disappointment because of that just unlimited potential that series like this has. I want to know more about the magic system, or how it works, or I want to see people become masters of their craft, and it doesn't happen. I want to see more of the political side of Kelawon and Midkemia, and it doesn't happen. I want to see more about the war because it's called the Rift War Saga. I want to know more about that and the war between the two worlds, and it doesn't really happen in the second half. Instead, we spend like the first half of this book in Kelawon, following Pug around as he becomes a magician master. But again, he doesn't really do any sort of training arc like you might see in other series, but instead, rather just like, he's just the master now. We get a time skip forward, and he's just the master now. And we get to see kind of the politics of the Black Robes and their dynamic with one another, because those are the magician masters in Kelawon or whatever. But like, it just feels like these, the main issue I guess I have is that each of these story threads have more than enough to be their own book. Like this first book, with the right kind of writer and the right kind of intent behind it, had so much potential to explore every single one of these storylines. over the course of a series by itself. And then we could move on to the second book and third book and whatever's in those, right? But we don't. It's just thrown out there. It's just thrown out there, and I just feel like it's rushed. I feel like this story is rushed because despite it being split in two parts and each of them are like 18 hours, I feel like there is so much more that could have happened in that amount of time. It feels like so much of this page space is used ineffectively. And it's not like, it doesn't live up to the potential that it had. Now, I know I'm really ranting, but I'm very passionate about fantasy, and I like to see series live up to their potential. And I'm hoping, as I dive more into the Rift Force saga, some of these things are explored. Because I did enjoy myself. I really like these characters. I think they're a little flat. I feel like they're a little empty. They are not like the most like just mind-blowing, this isn't a character study book, this is not Robin Hobb. Like, you're not going to get the depth of character that you get from something like, The Wheel of Time, or, like Stormlight or anything like that. It's very classical fantasy. These are character archetypes, and, maybe that changes as the series goes on, but right now, it's kind of flat. But still, I like the characters. I think they're very enjoyable. I like the story. I think there are a lot of cool ideas in there, and there are parts that I thought really shined. And I wish we had gotten more of those parts, because those moments that shine really worked for me. I like the world building of both worlds. I just want more of it. I like the action when it happens. I just want more of it. I like the magic when it happens. I just want more of it. And I think that's really what Magician Master left me with, was wanting more from this book, and it just didn't deliver. It's still a good book. It's still worth reading if you like classical fantasy. But, if you come in with this expectation of like, oh, I'm going to see a lot of magic on display, or I'm going to see this Rift War just like really open up, and we're going to see a ton of battles and a lot of like cool ideas and this back and forth and politics and all that, you have the wrong expectations, and I'm sorry to say that. But yeah, this was a letdown for me, unfortunately. There are good parts in this book, but it just like, it's the long-lasting impression that it's giving me right now is just wasted potential, which is, that's like a sin in my book. It's still like a 4-star read, but it's just not, it's not mind-blowing. It's nothing. Like, it could have been very original and very unique, and it wasn't. I'm gonna give it like an 8.2 out of 10. I'd recommend it if you like the first part, because I think Master is better than Apprentice. But if you don't like classical fantasy, you can skip this one.